Good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to Who Am I? Who Am I? My little program where every day we ask the questions. And depending on what kind of frequency I can hit, we explore the many facets of the answers. Now, if you know me and if you're a fan of the show, you know that there is a particular angle I've got on it because I don't want to just float off into outer space and be talking about, nonsensical, philosophical, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin kind of practicality. So I don't wander off too far afield. I have confined my platform of discussion. Not confined exactly, but I try to. We're in reference to source energy, first of all, and with two practical intentions. We want to influence the coherence of mankind. Just you don't do it like that. You do it just from yourself, one person at a time, as you in your alignment start inspiring others to their alignment. And like ripples in a pond, it spreads and spreads and spreads. And eventually, we are all in a little bit better coherence than we are at the moment. And what do I mean by coherence? So, the structure of the universe is spin, first of all. You got to know that spin is fundamental. And in honor of that emphasis today, I'm adding a new link to my links of things in my description. If you're a fan of the show, you know what they all are: the movies and the paper and the description of the paper and all that. And the first episode of Quantum Revolution. But I'm adding today. My daughter sent me this one because it was like an epiphical in a moment of epiphany. She sort of gave me credit. It was kind of like, "You're right, Mom. You're right. It is spin. Spin is what it all is. Fundamentally, it all boils back to a primordial spin that we're all spinning out of, and it's how come the oneness can organize us in this beautiful, coherent way, because it's all spin. So what I'm adding is it's a little clip called "Dancing to Get Closer to God." It's a whirling dervishes thing. It's really quite moving too. Actually, when you think about it, you're like, oh, it makes so much sense what these people are doing. What everybody is doing starts making incredible sense to you, and you quit trying to feel like you have to push back against everybody. Just take in this marvelous, marvelous world that we're a part of. And we're going to try to get us all a little bit closer to an understanding of who we are and where we came from, and how to understand the equipment we're driving, and how to sort of get the feel for why we are where we are in history, how the cycles of history work. We seem to have these. Well, as modern man who does not know who he is, we have certain cycles that we have been repeating because every 80 years or so we lose our memory of what happened. The ones who actually experienced the war or the pain or the crap, the revolution that happened, they die off, and the unrest builds again. There's an interesting book out there called The Fourth Turning that kind of talks about these cycles of what I'm seeing is last century. We had a very interesting number of occurrences that should have been quite revealing to mankind. And I would like to hope that this pattern precisely does not unfold like it did last century. I don't think it will, because we are not the same. And the setup is very, very much not the same. And we have been very, very, very busy working subconsciously, I believe, to build structures that make it harder for us to do what we did last century. I'm talking about the Holocaust. I'm talking about World War II specifically, but World War I, we don't need to be doing these things anymore. We should understand why we're doing what we're doing by now. And that Holocaust example should be enough for us to realize we don't ever have to do that one again. We can see how bad that gets. Do we really need to go down that road again? We've got to play it different. If it comes to our very front door, which in some people are kind of lighting their hair on fire and convinced that it's coming to our door again. Some of them are absurdly thinking that it's being brought by Biden, which is really funny. But it doesn't matter. The whole pattern is quite destructive. And the problem with the scene that you're looking at is not, it's the polarity itself. We really have to see past the us and them paradigm in order to understand truly what it is that we are looking at. We are a single morphogenetic field on this planet. Well, I say a single morphogenetic field, and then I'm going to demark us in a number of ways. So we're a single morphogenetic field as humanity. We are a single morphogenetic field as biology. We're a single morphogenetic field as Gaia herself. The whole package of Earth with her rocky planetariness combined with her organic biology-ness, and then I guess what I'm saying is that you can break morphogenetic fields down into quite a few different ways. But as humanity, we are a single information. What is a morphogenetic field? That's actually a good question. I use the word as though everybody knows what it is. And I'm not sure that they do. But it's like a field phenomenon. It's something that's happening in the matrix. You have to understand the field as a connected entity in order to be able to picture what the heck a morphogenetic field is. Or maybe you have to. I don't know. I do. That's how I do it. I don't know how other people will do it. But a morphogenetic field is like a field of information. And we understand the concept of fields, magnetic fields, we understand that. Electromagnetic fields, for sure we understand that. I don't know. A family is a kind of a morphogenetic field. What does it mean to be a field? It means that you are more than yourself, for one thing. You're bigger than what it looks like you are. And you're tagged into fields of information that are bigger than just what's there in your physical body. We're much more than just our physical body. This brings us back to the question, who am I? Who am I as a morphogenetic field? Who am I as the quantum field? You hear so much about this Q word, the quantum field. What does it mean? It means that you're bigger than you look. And you have access to information way bigger than who you are, than your conventional self would imply that you are. Your physical mind. Your physical mind is quite limited. And it's funny because human beings believe very strongly that the only way that we could possibly get by on this planet is if we think it through with our physical minds. That's the way human beings are determined to do it. And it's funny because if we would shut our physical minds off and just feel the rhythms of the planet, the rhythms of each other, the beat of our own heart, the call of the environment. It would plug us right into source, and we would easily blend with the environment around us and easily know how to be sustainable, how to find food, how to get along with our fellow beings, we would easily do it. So I think that's perhaps the aim of my little program, to help us plug into our source, each and every one of us individually, because it's really the only way you can do it. You cannot take instructions from the outside primarily and work out anything that's ultimately coherent and sustainable. So, who am I? Who am I in reference to source energy, and what is my aim in this? Twofold, two-pronged. The first one is we need to get off of fossil fuels. We really, 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 really need to get off of fossil fuels. It is, in a lot of physical ways, the root cause of our physical problems on planet Earth. The rest of it would all just be kind of drama and squabbling amongst ourselves and some localized damage here and there. But with the fossil fuel thing, we are killing ourselves. We're killing ourselves. We're killing the planet. We're creating scarcity where scarcity need not exist. The planet is so capable of creating abundance beyond our wildest ability to imagine, which, by the way, what is our imagination? It is downloads from our higher self. It's downloads from our inner being, from our vibrational cosmic aspect. And when we can start getting clear hits from our imagination, clear streaming information flow from our own imagination, we start getting downloads of all the ideas that will help us solve every problem we have on planet Earth. It really isn't going to be a problem if we would just turn in the right direction, quit messing around in the darkness, quit not understanding our own equipment, quit thinking that we are problem solvers, because we aren't. We're solution finders, and there is a subtle vibrational difference there. It has to do with what you've put in the center of your focus. What's in the center of the aperture of your focus? Your focus of what? Your focus of consciousness. The seat of your consciousness is basically what we're talking about. Well, it's a lot of what we're talking about. It's not all of what I'm talking about. But it kind of is, because even when you go into the unified physics aspect of this and start putting together how matter comes into being, you realize that actually this whole setup is way more dreamlike than we were giving it credit for, way more subjective. The objective is quite subjective, interestingly enough. So who am I? Why do I have this equipment, and why is it that it's so hard to understand? Why do we not have a default understanding of how our equipment works? Why do we need a user's manual? Well, because I think we've been genetically modified. This is part of my, I realize that I'm walking a tight little circle, but the subjects that I pick up in this forum, they're big enough that if we flesh them out wholly, fully, and connect them to one another, even though it's the same pathway of topics that I cover every day in this Who Am I program. Who am I in reference to source energy? How did I get here? What am I doing? What is the formula for success? How do I drive my equipment? What's the medium I'm swimming in? It's all big enough that we should be able to talk for months and months and months about this, nothing but this, because frankly, it bleeds into everything else. Because when you start talking about any other problem you've got, on the ground, whether it's something mechanical with your house, you can't, things are breaking down, or stuff is happening in your experience, whatever it is, it all comes back to, you gotta understand who you are, what your emotions are actually telling you. Do not take them personally. Don't take them personally. Don't take them literally. Don't take them too seriously. Unless you really understand the length, breadth, and depth of who you are and what your equipment is actually telling you. The negative emotions that you're getting, first of all, they are telling you one that there's a minor thing it tells you at the beginning, which is you're being signaled that some condition in the field, in the manifested field, you are finding displeasing. You don't like it. Who you think of as yourself does not like that. That is not who you are. So you get a jolt of it. Now, when you start taking it personally and literally, that's when you start fixing in your mind the shape and solidity of what it is you're looking at. And you can really lock it into your mind so that it stays in front of you. You think you're trying to fix it, but what you've really done is locked it into your experience. And so now you're deeply enmeshed in a rather negative experience. Well, you did it to yourself. You don't actually have to operate in this world in that way. Now, it is true that many, many terrible things are occurring around us. Other people are stepping in it bad in a lot of ways. They're misguided, they're misunderstanding, they don't realize the nature of the mirror they exist in. They don't understand their own quantum nature. They don't understand the divinity of us all. They don't understand their own... Most of us don't understand our own equipment, do we? We don't realize how safe we could be if we would line ourselves, our physical minds, our physical conventional selves, with our source energy aspect. If we could line those two up, we don't realize how safe and happy we really could be. How capable of interacting with one another and interacting and co-creating with the rest of the species on this planet we could be if we would plug ourselves into source energy. And what the crap does it mean to plug yourself into source energy? So what is my two intentions with this little show, Who Am I? As we discuss these topics, our intention is to further the coherence of mankind and the greater quantum field around us. And for myself personally, my own personal intention is, I believe in the paradigm of a multiverse. There are many, 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 many versions of Earth, and how we handle the problems lying ahead of us. What are our problems? Well, our tendency to kill each other with massive war operations, our tendency to be really stupid about who we are and elect authoritarian dictators, overthrow democratic governments, and elect authoritarian dictators. Human beings have a tendency to do that. Americans have never done that yet. But we may be fixing to do that. In a lot of ways, our democracy is very, very broken. The fact that we have look at who our choices are for president. Why do we not have somebody like Marianne Williamson, or I don't know if you know much about her. I don't want to invoke any reaction in you by naming specifics, but For heaven's sakes, is this the best that an empire of over 300 million people, this is the best that we can put up for president? And they're going to be, their fingers are going to be, their thumbs are going to be on the nuclear buttons. They're going to be in charge of the most massive freaking military. It just boggles the mind. I just don't even know what to think about it. And so I kind of pull it back to this fundamental level. That's actually another reason how come I do this show. Because there's stuff going on out there so big that I can't possibly really have any direct physical effect from my physical position, from where I'm physically, my physical body and my physical brain and my I really just don't have much to say about, and I don't have a lot of control from that direction. Now, I actually have come to believe that from the inside, all of us have the potential to have enormous impact and influence to the greater good, actually. From the inside, you teach to the power of your own example. You show people what you mean by living your life. I don't mean being goody two-shoes and going against all of your instincts I'm talking about just honestly being your own authentic self and not being too afraid to be seen as awkward or unusual or weird. I know I'm a little weird coming into this show and doing this every day. I know it's a little weird. I'm hitting a rather detached tone that I'm not sure people are even going to know what to do with. I'm in a land of no resistance whatsoever in this this mind space as I speak, and I push back against nothing. I accept that everything is there for a reason, because everything is making up integral wholenesses. You are here for a reason. I am here for a reason. You are who you are for a reason. You're standing where you're standing, looking in the direction you're looking, thinking about what you're thinking, part of this field phenomenon in any given moment for a reason, because we are all a big wholeness. And I'm part of a bigger wholeness and a smaller wholeness and a tiny wholeness and a gargantuan wholeness and this wholeness and that wholeness. A whole family, a whole species, a whole planet, a whole being, myself, my individuated wholeness, which is actually what amounts to the divine autonomy that I threaten to talk about from time to time. Divine autonomy being a pet idea of my own that sort of speaks to your own power of creating a little whirling nest of safety for yourself. And you start trusting your own inner being to keep you safe. And then you always obey her impulses. If she kind of nudges you to move to the right, you don't ask why, you just move to the right. And then you let the boulder that was spinning past, that would have taken you out on your left had you not moved to the right, you go, oh, that's why she told me to do that. Just trust. Plug yourself into your own source and then trust. Trust your impulses. Know that those impulses are actually better than the ones that your conscious mind is going to come up with. The conscious mind comes up with like the letter of the law. But your inner being understands the spirit of the law. And the spirit of things is being orchestrated all around us by this, what I always call source. A lot of people call this force God. But then they get real funny when they call it God. And they think, my God is different than your God. And it's so ridiculous because it actually just is one thing. All is one and one is all. It's an almighty one thing, And I like to call it the Almighty, actually, because a lot of people have called God the Almighty. And it actually vibrationally rings true in concept in my heart. The vibration of that feels right. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. We are all one thing. And that means a lot of things to our individual experiences. It means that in any given moment, in any given flashcard moment, slice of experience, cut the frame away, and any given moment, the whole thing is with you. It's all with you. Everything you need, every tool you need, you could think of it like an escape room, but you're not really escaping. You're just moving to the next square because there's a flow going on. And the idea, the object of the exercise is to keep flowing with the flow. It's a lot more comfortable that way. It's a lot easier that way. It's you keep your personal share of the currency flowing to you. Because I have heard the definition of abundance as being no more, no less than this. And it doesn't need to be any more than this. But you have to have a certain amount of faith to allow this to be enough for you. Abundance is your ability to take the next step you want to take. The next step you want to take. Could be the next step you need to take, but it needs to be the next step you want to take. Want to take. Because I believe that the inner being is actually your desire. Your desire pulls you towards that which you love. If you don't realize it's toward what you love, realize it's at least towards what you want, what you like. Oops, it's towards what you love. That's what your desire is actually pulling you towards. And isn't that interesting? Because I actually think that God is love. Our connection to the Almighty has to do with the singularity that we all spring forth from. This single point that we all share. The pull of the shared point is love. It's gravity. It's the spin. It's the primordial spin that we all come out of. It's our source, our understanding of this, and it as a field is going to take us away forever and ever and ever from stupid ass fossil fuel burning. We don't need to do it anymore, and we need to make a concerted effort to stop doing it. And we really could. We could have a national call for genius physicists everywhere to recognize that the solution is at hand, but we need to believe it's there. It will free all of mankind from this. It will also free us from the tyranny of about 400 freaking families and a very few individuals that own pretty much all of the materially manifested really cool goods on this planet. All the billion-dollar yachts. And boy, there are some cool ones out there. Some really, really nice ones. We were in Cabo last week, and there was a pretty nice Russian one. It was different looking than the others, but they got helicopters on them. Sometimes they got more than one helicopter on them, as well as detachable speedboats. Not to mention, all the toys. Very interesting. And I'm not actually pushing back against the opulence of all this cool technology. It's just we got to understand what we've manifested on the ground here and how to go about manifesting a better outcome. First of all, understand what is creating reality. What you're focusing on and how you're focusing on it is literally causing reality to manifest in front of you. That's how it's becoming, is our attention to it. And so when we don't understand ourselves and we don't know who we are, and we spend all of our time focusing in anger or fear or anxiety or whatever on certain manifested materiality that we do not like, instead of making it go away, we just make it more and more and more. We agitate ourselves, we agitate others. We all get more and more out of alignment. We get more in our heads trying to figure out how to fix it. And that fixing it gets farther and farther and farther away. It's because we're dreaming this into being. And so do a better job of dreaming the mood. We don't want it to be a nightmare. We want it to be a pleasant dream. So the first thing you have to do is start understanding your own emotional configuration so that you can start working on your own mood. Because you think that your mood is a response of from the environment. And in a way, it's true. But you can get into a really dark circle if you don't realize the source of all of this. You can turn it around by going the other direction. Most people give most of their emotional vibrational offering is in response to what they are observing. And so they end up creating more of what they are observing in the way that they are observing it. Whatever you are looking at, you are creating more of it. And it's not the material specifics so much as the spirit it's riding on. Whatever spirit you're looking at, that's the one that you are continuing. And so it's a really good idea to try to find a higher frequency, because from my perspective, I really don't care. I really, really don't care what the material manifestation around me is, as long as the spirit of it is in order. You know, abundant, joyful, humming along nicely, everyone, you know, all of the intricacies in place. I love what God does to naturescapes, you know. Every single one of them I have ever seen has been perfect. You know, whether it's been a tropical one or a forest or an underwater coral reef or a beautiful, practically an untouched desert, even with all of its thriving life and possibilities. Every time nature has done it, it is perfect. It's when mankind starts messing with it. But it's not because we're actually bad. We are not bad. We are so freaking good. People, we are so good. We're so good. Even the horrible ones amongst us are so good. And if we would but understand who we really are, the divine nature of us, the divine nature of the field that we are a part of, how we affect each other. You know, we really can't get out of each other's business. And that's how come your alignment matters to me. I know that in a way, I cannot care about how this message lands on anybody's ears. I can't care about it. It's none of my business. My business is to follow my bliss, to follow my impulses and do what I feel called to do. And that's what this is. I actually feel rather fulfilled as I do this. And then it's almost like an hour and a half oral prayer to myself, a meditation as I remind myself, my individual self, who I really am. So that as I face my day and my, problematic relatives or my problematic neighbors or, whoever might pop up and have their problems, I can step up and help them, help me, help us stay coherent, stay in good humor, stay who we really are. We're really good people, even you ornery ones out there, even you angry ones out there. The only reason you're angry and frightened and desperate is because your needs aren't being met. They aren't being met because the systems that we have created for ourselves that are supposed to be supply chain and, as a whole species, we are building this summation of ourselves that includes, agricultural production and communications and supply chains of all sorts, energy supply chains and economic systems. And then we have these political systems that are supposed to be organizations of human beings that get together and try to spend the collective will that is our tax money, that is blah, blah, blah. Anyway, all of these things that we have created, we are one being. And the angry ones are becoming angry because their needs aren't being met. Everybody's needs are not being met. Some very few are having their needs way met. And then there's others of us, my needs are being met, pretty much. I can go down to I don't live in a food desert. I can go down to a grocery store relatively nearby and buy whatever I need. I can even choose organic foods and, foods grown in other countries and stuff. I am fairly privileged in this, for sure. But not everybody is out there. And can you imagine how you would feel if you were a mother, perhaps a single mother, perhaps maybe not a single mother. You don't have to be a single mother. I'm just trying to imagine different things that put stress on the situation. And you can't feed your children. I know how I love my children. I am sure that you love your children the same exact way. And if you are starting to become frightened about the world around you, the pressure coming from the people south of the border, whose needs are not being met, who become desperate and, they get together in groups thinking that, if there's 10,000 of us, you can't not hear our voices. But then, political parties on this side of the border start calling them an army, a mob, an army that's coming to take away your good life. When they don't realize that we are a field phenomenon. The whole thing is a wholeness. You cannot separate the United States policies from the policies of our neighbors. And I'll tell you, I know that our neighbors to the south, their government is really corrupt. But you know what? Ours is fixing to be really corrupt too. It's pretty corrupt right now. Politicians are pretty much for sale. And truth isn't really at a very high... Nobody really cares about the truth. The way I see politics as it's going down right now, I used to be very enmeshed in the details, the actual truth of, who said what they actually said, followed up by what they actually did, and follow these people and follow those people, and now measure that compared to what they're saying they did, and then, you got to sort that all in your brain. Who's telling the truth? Reason is going to hold out, right? Reason is going to win in the end. Isn't it, right? Isn't it? Isn't it? And I realize that is not what is playing out in front of us. It is an energy event. It is one party has harnessed anger, has harnessed fear, has harnessed aggrievement. And it doesn't even matter what he says anymore. It really does not matter what he says. Nobody's fact checking him. His followers are not fact checking him. Often he just stands up there and just says literal gibberish. And then on the other side, we make fun of that. Oh, look at what he said. It's ridiculous. You know? And then sometimes our candidate says gibberish too, and we're like, oh, ignore that because he's really a well-meaning guy, and look at all these good things he's trying to do. Cancel student debt, and, he's so much better. He's going to be so much better for the environment. Because I tell you what, if the other guy wins, anger, it's out of alignment wins is what it is. And so our government is going to be seriously spiritually out of alignment for a number of years, and we'll see what's left of it by the end of the term. We'll see how many guardrails the whole thing can smash through, how many institutions it can bring down, because that's what's going to happen. It is vibration destroy. It's the unsustainable has to come down, unfortunately. And a lot of what we have built our house of cards on is not sustainable. And our conscious minds can think, yeah, but we're going to keep it going because, well, no, we're not. Everything that is unsustainable is going to pass away. It's sort of like, this is a good segue into my first, I've been at this for 41 minutes and I have not done a scene change. Well, the very first scene change I think I'm going to do this time is I'm going to pull in my picture of cymatic patterns. Now, cymatics is the study of the relationship between vibration and form. These cymatic patterns were created by some sort of digital device. You put a different frequency in it and it will produce a whole different pattern. Every frequency produces a different pattern. Now, that's digital. Originally, the whole study of it started with metal plates and a granular medium sprinkled on top of the plate, and then you pipe a frequency through that, and lo and behold, coherent patterns appear. Different frequency, different pattern. Higher frequency, more complex pattern. That's what you're seeing here. Upper left, lower right. Upper right, lower left, excuse me. Upper left and lower right, these are cymatic patterns, natural ones, appearing in nature. Tortoiseshell and some sort of sea creature, or I think that's an aquatic thing, some sort of insect, but I think it's water. In any case, you can see the snowflake in the center. That's a cymatic pattern too, and it explains why every snowflake, as it's forming in the atmosphere, why they're all different. Because they're all forming on a different frequency. Because everything around us is frequencies. If you want to understand the whole universe, you need to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Why do I bring this up? Why do I always bring this up? Why is this important? Well, first of all, it illustrates to yourself that you really do live in a vibrational universe. But the other reason I bring this up is to imagine this. When you say, look at those patterns on the plate, the black plate with the granular medium on top, and you've created a pattern. Now you're going to change the frequency and it's going to make a different pattern. Imagine that is what is happening to mankind at this moment. We are up-leveling. Our frequency is changing. It's not just changing, I believe it's rising. Our consciousness is rising because the frequency in the field is rising. And so the pattern is changing. And when you go from one pattern to the next, there's a moment in between patterns when it looks like chaos. It looks like a problem. Looks like there isn't really a pattern there, but it isn't chaos. It's one pattern is becoming and another pattern is begoing, and you're sort of in between worlds. Well, it's mankind is always in a state kind of like that, but we're really in a state like that right now. And a lot of our old patterns, they're passing away. And if you're clinging to them, grasping and clinging to them, then you're feeling really uncomfortable right now. In this world, in this life, you're feeling uncomfortable because things that we have depended upon before to keep ourselves safe, to keep ourselves civilized, and things are changing. So how do you get by in this world? Well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into alignment with my vibrational greater self and try to follow her advice, because she's going to know way more than I do how to navigate this puppy. So anyway, that's why I bring up the cymatic thing. I think right now I'm going to go to... Oh, that's not where I wanted to go. Right here, this is where I wanted to go. I'm going to go to the 5 kleshas now, which is something I pull into every presentation. These are considered to be the root causes of human suffering. Foundational, fundamental root causes of suffering. Not knowing what's real. And doesn't that make sense? Wouldn't it make sense that if you did not know what was real and you did not understand your own emotions and you took them seriously? So I'll tell you who we all really are. Who we all really are is eternal liquid love. Connected singularity, wholeness, love. Vibrational... Love is who we are. Now, you may have a completely different perspective. You may have lived something horrifying. And you're saying, hey, wait a minute. I know that there is other than love out there. And actually, only the love is real. The other stuff is there, but it's an experience created by our ability to separate ourselves from our inner light, from our inner being, and go in our minds to dark places that our inner being never goes to. Your inner being knows what's really going on, and I'll tell you what, it's really okay. We are all evolving. We are all expanding. We are all moving to the good, moving to the more, moving to the more beloved, to the more connected, moving to the more everything, to the more understanding, to the more capable, to the more... When we turn the corner and realize how we are not only not bad, and I don't even care who you are, we are not bad. We are so freaking good. We are so cool. We are so powerful. We are so amazing. And the situation that you are actually looking at in front of you is so much more mythological than you ever gave it credit for. We live in a universe that is amazing beyond amazing. And the potential that human beings have within this. Now, why are we so weird? Why can we not get along? I believe the reason is that some naughty aliens, some naughty extraterrestrials from, I'm not going to, what's the word? Guess, I guess. That's not the word I want, but I'm not going to guess about which planetary system these naughty extraterrestrials are from. But they went against their own laws, their own people's laws. They broke their own laws and they genetically modified us. They gave us capability beyond our ability to understand our connection to the rest of the allness. To beyond our ability to understand how we then related to the rest of the world around us. And now they've got to babysit us. I do believe we are being babysat. I have heard that the one thing that they are keeping us from doing is they're watching us, they're trying to help us, they're keeping us from global thermonuclear war because that could bleed into other dimensions and mess up other dimensions' backyards. It wouldn't necessarily be contained just right here if we did that. So there are those who are keeping us from doing that. But beyond that, we're sort of on our own because we need to figure this out. This is what this is our task now, to understand who we are and how our equipment works so that we know what a successful formula really looks like. What does it look like? Well, I'll tell you what it feels like. It feels good. And if you don't feel good, then you're not in alignment with your inner being, and you need to work on that. Find your happy thought. Isn't that what so much of the mythologies talk about? Finding your happy thought. Your mood is creating the landscape around you. Although you're allowing it to go the other way around. You're observing the landscape, and then that's your offering. And so what you're creating is more and more of the same landscape. Let's create a different landscape, people. Let's imagine a better landscape, a more efficient one, a more sustainable one that accounts for all of us so that all of our needs are met, so that we don't have large swaths of angry, desperate people creating chaos, storms of chaos in the field around us. It's all, we're one field event. What you do affects me. What I do affects you. We can't help ourselves. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? I find it interesting. I thought I did a pretty good show the first day we came back from our little field trip to Mexico last week. I did an initial show early in the morning. I didn't really like that one very much, so I came back into the studio and I redid a whole new episode at about 10:30 that morning and posted that one. That was on the 12th of May, and no one watched that one, which I thought was interesting. There were 3 watches on the 13th episode. Anyway, what else do I want to talk about today? Do I want to talk about all of it? Let's talk about why I think that we're genetically modified. I could do that for a second. So I'm not the only one who thinks so, by the way. This is a slide from one of Greg Braden's conferences. And he is the one who pointed my consciousness in the direction of this article. And even the notion of peer-reviewed scientific journals and how those work. I had to go find this article. You can see he's written, it's from the Proceedings, so I didn't even know what this actually was short for. Postnatal Aged Psi. What this actually is short for is Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. You Google that, and you find that they are at pnas.org. Really, really easy to find. And this volume we're looking for, it was published in 1991 in October. So you go find the thing, and here's the article. It's about 5 pages long, and it's an intense description, a genetic description of the sequencing of all of the components of this chromosome. And there's telomere material in the very middle of it, which telomere material does not belong in the middle of a chromosome. It's on the outsides. It's like the extra, so that when the chromosome replicates, it replicates true without anything at the edges being lost. It's like extra bit. And actually, when that telomere, every time the chromosome replicates, a little bit of that telomere is lost unless it is replenished. And when all of it's gone, then when the next time that it replicates not completely. There's a little tiny bit of information lost. And that equals aging, by the way. And there are a number of things that that replenish telomere material. One of them has to do with feelings of gratitude and states of being, of love and peace and, well, I actually don't have a lot of specific facts about things right in front of me, but there are things that do replenish telomere material, and it's telling the kinds of things that do replenish your telomeres. Basically, the things that extend your life, extend your lifespan. I remember watching a show once where somebody did a study on centenarians, people who lived past the age of 100. And the thing that connected them all together was not so much, I think the scientists who did the study pretty much expected that they would all have a certain diet, or none of them smoked, or, none of them drank, or whatever. And it was nothing like that. They had all kinds of different nutrition habits, and some of them indeed did drink or smoke. And they still lived to be over 100. And what was the thing that... the main thing that they all had in common, every single one of them had meaning in their life. They still had work that they were doing that they felt was important, that fulfilled them. One was a docent at a museum, gave people guides, guided tours through some museum or other. Another one was really active in their church. Another one very, very active and fulfilled with a large, loving, boisterous family. There's all kinds of different ways that people had gone about it, but all of the ones that were still active and alive after the age of 100 were so because of more psychological reasons than physical reasons. Because our psychology, our psyche, our mind, the blend of our mind and our heart is the most important thing. From my perspective, everything. And also to this question of who am I? Who am I? Now, why would someone have genetically modified us? Why would they have done this to us? Here's the full abstract where it says, we conclude that this fusion, that what we're looking at, it's the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which two ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Before they fused, they were ape chromosomes. After they fused, they were human chromosomes. That's what they're saying. I don't know. I'm not a geneticist, so I have a hard time either, confirming or refuting this bit of evidence, but I find it very interesting, and I don't think anybody ever took this back. I don't think any other geneticists have ever came in and said, you know what, we've looked at your work, people, and we disagree with it. We think it's something else. I don't think anybody has ever disagreed with this, because this is true. We have been genetically modified, and that's the missing link. So who are our creators? They aren't gods, they're extraterrestrials. They come from another planet. I find it all very, very interesting. Our future is so friggin' interesting, people. It's not dark and apocalyptic. It is really full of possibility. Human beings are wonderful. We just need to know who we are and how to work our equipment. Every family should grow up with a user's manual on their coffee table explaining to them how their emotions work, how their conscious mind needs to blend with their overmind, their source mind, the one that is connected to the greater field, and the needs of the greater field. In truth, people, there is only one of us here. And you can say the same thing from where you're standing. And so why would it be? It's not about competition. It's about cooperation. It's about coordination and co-creation and Anyway, so who am I? Who am I? And what is this field that I am swimming in? And how is my understanding of this divine matrix, this ether, this superfluid of quantum Plancks that can assemble into anything that we want it to? You just have to not step on the toes of everything else. Your desires, ultimately your desires cannot be out of alignment with the rest of the field, or you will be shut down. Because you are not in this alone. The whole field is alive, and the whole field wants to be, and the whole field wants to co-create with itself and one another. And so the systems that we come up with, to grow our agriculture and flow our water and our information and our technology and our energy systems needs to be in alignment with the rest of the field, with the needs of the rest of the field. And we can do it. We can do it, and it doesn't need to be austere. We do not need to follow a paradigm of austerity. It can be, as a matter of fact, I would go for maximum abundance because the planet can absolutely handle it. But the number one thing we need to do, and I think we should do it as a national push, get the frick off of fossil fuels. We can do it incrementally. We don't have to do it 1, 2, 3, off fossil fuels. What we need to do is develop a myriad of... So, before I sign off, I will tell you the links that are... I have to do it for every video because every video I put these links up. And I want every video to stand as a standalone program so that if that's the only one you listen to, you understand why I've put these links up, why I'm connecting to these other people's thoughts. Because I think that it all comes together in a really beautiful wholeness that matters, literally matters. It has to do with how matter comes into being, and how matter comes into being, understanding the fundamentals of that brings us directly to gravity control. Now, I believe that the dark ops aspect of our own very own governments already, probably at least my government, the black ops side of my government already has gravity control. Already understands the basic mechanics of some of this, and is keeping it from us. It's pretty much a dark side of us. We do have a dark side of our shadow government. It's a very dark thing. But I'm not going to worry about that too much because basically over the days and weeks to come, we are going to come to understand where these dark energies come from. And the answer, because we do create our own reality by what the mood we are in, how dark or light we are looking at something, how we are looking at it, what we are looking at, that's what's creating our own reality. So we have to be very careful when talking about the dark side of things. It's very important that you come at it from the proper direction. You cannot gaze directly into the face of Medusa. There's a reason why that myth was a thing, why that story is told. It does turn you to stone and more. It's more than that. When you address the Hydra in a particular way, you start coming at it directly and cutting its heads off. It springs two more from wherever you cut one off. There's a reason why that mythology is told. The world is way more mythological than we've been giving it credit for. It's really cool. We live in a very, very, very cool universe. You just have to understand who you are, what you are, what you're driving, how it works, how your machinery works, in order to guide yourself to your best material outcome. I'm actually not against focusing on, well, I was about to say, I'm not against focusing on material outcomes. Ultimately, a good material outcome is my highest intention also. I have just come to understand that materiality is a secondary effect of the primary element, which is vibration. Which is how come your emotions are so much better at feeling reality than your physical mind is at thinking about reality. But when you put the two of them together, when you link your heart and your head, when you join the two of them together, then absolute miracles happen. Absolute miracles happen. So, human beings, absolutely very, very cool. We need to know who we are and how we function, or we are tremendously destructive, naughty, naughty creatures when we do not understand who we are. Now, and how our consciousness works, and how we need to set up our consciousnesses, in the sense of there are such things as primary assumptions. Primary assumptions like, I'll tell you a big primary assumption, that we live in a vibrational universe. That one needs to be really high up there on the list. And there's another thing to look at besides just primary assumptions. Object of the exercise. What's the object of the exercise? Because if you think that the object of the exercise is for me to do battle with the rest of the world and rise to the top of the heap of the mountain victorious, with all of my enemies crushed under my boot heel, then you live a very different life than if you think the object of the exercise is to find the win point. The point where most of us thrive to the highest level of our potential. Can't you see how different would your experience be between those two assumptions? Do you believe that you live in a universe that is a zero-sum game? I win, you lose? A lot of people believe that. And when you believe that, you act differently than if you believe that it is possible. The universe is actually a paradigm of possibility where every single one of us can have what we want. If our wants would come somehow into alignment with a couple of things. First of all, reality, how it actually unfolds, how it actually becomes, how it actually manifests, how the manifestation, how the rolling manifestation becomes and begoes, right? How that really happens. Get your thinking into alignment with that, and then get your desires into alignment with what you need. You know, people are always wanting things they don't need and not wanting what they, you know, you have needs that you aren't even trying to fill, and other things that you don't need at all that you're desperately trying to get. You know, it's part of the kleshas, this not knowing what's real and grasping and clinging to the wrong things, you know? Oh, I've lost my kleshas. There they are. I don't know if I need to go back to them. I need to talk about some other things. Your emotional guidance system, for instance. What is the meaning of that? The fact is you have two minds. Your physical, conventional, conscious mind, that's the one you're most aware of. The one that gives you so much trouble, you know? Monkey mind, can't get off the negative. That one. Most people are aware of that one, but they don't necessarily know who the other mind is. The other mind is bigger. It's your overmind. It's your oversoul. It's your it's your source mind. It's your inner being. It's your individual slice of the allness. Your piece of the fractal integer. Your cosmic anatomy that can read the allness channel, that is uploading all the information of all the universe through the black hole structure of information flow as revealed by all of Nassim Haramein's math and his physics papers and stuff that he's been putting out since 2012. I believe the first one he published December 12th, 2012. He did it for historic significance. It probably gave him less credibility in the scientific community, as a lot of conventional physicists back then would have considered that date to be, associated with woo-woo science and, voodoo and stuff like that. But in the 12 years since he first published that paper, there's a lot of things that have happened since then. And I've put some of it up as links within this video that I am publishing. So let's see. The links that I put up, this is what they are. Come on up. Up. So, I put a link to The Lost Century and how to reclaim it. This is part of my practical, I want to get the word out. We have been duped. Seriously duped. I mean, so seriously duped that pretty much 99% of all of us on the whole planet have been duped. We have been duped thinking that we have been led to believe that we need to be on fossil fuels. We could have incrementally been gently moving away from them for the last 100 years, and probably pretty well away from them by now because of it. But the things that could have moved us away have been brutally suppressed and deep-sixed along with their inventors often, depending on how easily they were quieted. So I've got that movie, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. That's all that information. I have put in The Origin of Mass and the Nature of Gravity, the YouTube video that describes the paper, which I've also put the link to the paper in. I put a link to Quantum Revolution, the very first episode of Nassim Haramein's really good series that describes in layman's language what he's trying to say, how the universe, how the quantum and cosmological worlds relate to one another, how they are connected to one another. And then a link to the movie, The Connected Universe. It was done back in 2016, narrated by Patrick Stewart. Love that man. And that is about Nassim Haramein and his discoveries. I threw in Butterfly Dreaming because I thought it was a lovely article. Paul Levy wrote about the dreaming nature and the morphogenetic nature of humanity. And then I'm adding one more thing. I'm adding a video about whirling dervishes. It's just a really short clip and very interesting. I like it. Beautiful. And why it's cool is because this speaks to the fundamental nature of all of spin. And these dervishes, they're tapping into it. And they feel closer to God in this practice that they do because God is actually spin. The coherence that is trying to organize us is loving, kind, beautiful, connected, but it is for us to choose the details because it is pure loving connection. It is this spin that is spinning us all in this gorgeous, coherent orchestration of symphony and harmony and mutual. That's what the spin amounts to. But it is just spin, and so we on the ground have to be the ones making choices. You have to make choices. You have to choose where you're going and who you are and what you prefer. That is our divine duty as alive in these bodies that we have been given. These really, really cool consciousnesses that we are walking around in, these earth rovers. Who am I? Remember, that's the name of the show. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Where did my people come from? What's the object of the exercise? What the hell is going on in my geopolitical sphere right now? What is the meaning of my current events? What's happening in this movie? What's been happening in this movie called history for the last eons of time? And what's the point of it all? Who am I? Questions we ask every day. Oh, you know what? I know what I just did. I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to save that. How interesting. I was thinking I did something else. Oh, I'm sorry. So where are we? Where are we in the discussion, and where are we going to go from here? We are coming into territory where we're past the 1 hour 17 minute mark, and I need to think about what else I want to say. I've already passed that moment. That would have been the right time to say this when I was talking about us being genetically modified. Because, excuse me, interestingly enough, 76% of the neocortex, which equals the physical brain's overview. It's sort of the physical mind's ability to look past its knee-jerk hormonal reactions. It's the physical brain's ability to see past the simple mammalian and reptilian brains. It's overview, but it's the physical brain's version of overview. True overview comes from your inner being. Your vibrational self is reading the freaking vibration of the universe. I would take her advice over your physical brain, because your physical brain cannot know how you are connected, the intricacies of the way you are connected to the field around you. But your inner being does know, because your inner being is connected to all these vibrations, which, very cool. You're a cool system. Now, I did mention do not take your emotions literally or seriously or personally. It's not personal. Your emotions of lack of self-worth are not an indictment on your self-worth. Don't take them personally. Don't take them seriously. What is happening if you feel less than? I'll tell you what's happening. You've taken a thought that says, I am less than. And the reason it feels bad is not because it's true, but because it isn't true. Isn't that funny? It feels bad because it isn't true, because it's a thought that does not resonate with what your inner being thinks. Find thoughts that resonate with your inner being. Your inner being is on frequencies. You got to find those frequencies. You are a transmitter and a receiver, by the way, and you are getting back. This universe is reflecting back to you what you are putting out vibrationally. So if you're a optimistic person with a sunny mood most of the time, and you rest in faith, and you're looking for well-being, and you're looking for solutions at all times because you have faith that they're there, well, that's what the universe is reflecting back to you. And so you're having a much easier time than if you believe that life is hard and everything has to be hard and blah, blah, blah. Well, the universe is reflecting exactly back. The universe will support you in anything that you believe. It's really quite remarkable, this universe we live in. Let's make the most of its potential. We've got a lot of big problems we got to mop up. Everything from, simmering wars. There's more than one out there, and they aren't going away. Garbage Island, growing deserts, world poverty, children starving, sixth mass extinction. Need I go on? Those are our problems in a nutshell. Now, as it turns out, we already have the technology to solve every one of those problems. What we don't have is the free, clean, unlimited energy source to drive it. But you know what? We could have been doing this incrementally, but we can do it great. We can do it all at once if we have to. But what we don't want it to be is centralized power, because that leads to the centralized political systems, which leads to problems like authoritarian dictators. And generally, I need to devote most of a show at some point to a discussion about authoritarian psychosis and how authoritarian psychosis relates to this topic that we're talking about. The who am I, and how does my equipment work? And how is it that at the human level, when we cross our own energy stream, so you have two beings within you, and I have not even shown this picture yet, but here they are. Here's your two selves. One is your source mind, the other one is your physical mind. Your physical mind, in your physical mind, you have free agency. You can take any thought you want. It can be as dark or as light, as true or as false, as mean or as kind, as big or as small as you can. Whatever thought you want, you can take that thought. Whatever thought you take is going to produce an effect. The effect is going to come because your source mind already has a thought going on. And the thoughts that your smaller mind is picking, that your physical mind is picking, either resonate or don't resonate with what your inner being is all about. And you're not changing what your inner being is doing, because it is connected to the larger field. It's more than just you. So just you, cannot change it. It's connected to everything that is. And so you'd have to change everything that is in order to change it. And I suppose you could do that, but you're not going to do it from the outside. You're going to have to do it from the other way around. And that's discussion for another day. In any case, So you over here in your physical mind, you've got free agency. You can pick positive thoughts, you can pick negative thoughts, you can pick small thoughts or large thoughts. Now, depending on what you do, you cause energetic effects in the field. When you cross your own energy stream with a negative, a shadow being is produced immediately. It's like a negative of a photograph. It's just immediately produced. And it's like the birth of Shiva energy. It's like it is the very source of the demons in this world, is our not understanding our own bi-energy streams, our own 2 points of attraction. One, relentlessly positive, so relentlessly positive, so powerfully positive, that when the smaller one takes a negative thought, the crossed energy current that happens, it's significant. We call it negative emotion, but it's the beginning of little storms of chaotic, incoherent flows of energy currency. You could call it all of that. In our lives, we call it other things. And different psychologists, as they have described the phenomenon, they come up with things like autonomous complexes, and it's aspects of ourself, these negative aspects of ourself that are not under the umbrella, they are not under the control of our conscious positive self. So whenever that emotion comes up, you start acting in ways that are contrary to what your conscious positive self wants. And then you wake up in jail and go, oh my God, what have I done? Or you wake up in bed with whatever, or you wake up, holding the bloody knife, or it's like, oh my God, what have I done? Some negative aspect of yourself has come out without control from your conscious positive self and acted autonomously. I believe Carl Jung called these autonomous complexes. And there is a relationship to this concept and authoritarian psychosis. And there's a relationship between that and what Paul Levy calls Wetiko. And Wetiko is an old Native American term. It's what the Native Americans called this psychosis that they noticed the white man had a great deal of. Now they had a word for this psychosis before we ever came over on the Mayflower. But they didn't see it as predominantly as it was in us. It was like all of us had that. In their world, before we came, they would notice the odd Indian or Native American, the odd one of their own tribe that would display this seeming blindness, this kind of psychic blindness, this inability to see source and blend the two of yourselves together. And so, and you know how they would depict this in drawing? To draw this condition, they would draw a picture of a person and their head and their body is not connected to itself. It's not connected to each other. That's how they depicted this condition, this Wetiko disease, this psychic blindness. So interesting. I see these things all as connected to one another. And it goes very, very intimately to the question of who am I? Who am I? And what am I really supposed to be doing with my life and on this earth? What instructions should I be following? Well, follow your passion, follow your bliss, follow your desire, there's a wick of magic feeling inside of your heart. Connect your head and your heart together and follow that. We're going to talk a lot about that in the days and weeks to come, from all kinds of directions. I notice that I am coming up on an hour and a half here in just another minute. I think I've probably said all I need to say for one day. Hour and a half of this every day is plenty. If you're a regular listener, you will be pleased to know that I am getting technically ready to have a guest in the studio. A very special guest. Her and I are going to work on making sure that my equipment is ready to do this so that we can remotely link into one another's studios and I can get her in on this discussion too. She is the single person that I know of other than myself that understands what I'm trying to say better than sometimes even than I. But I know that you will... I'm looking forward to the energy of somebody else in the studio talking about this same thing. I think that it's going to be really interesting. So look forward to that. This morning, I have joined a summer bowling league, and I gotta get ready and go bowling later. I know that I didn't need to tell that to you. Hold on one second. My problem is I just took a little bit of a break and it kind of knocked my brain out of my overview space that I was occupying for the last hour and a half. But it doesn't matter because my show is over for the day. And until tomorrow, when I really hope that I see you back in this space with me. I'm looking forward to it. Until tomorrow, I wish you joy, I bid you peace, and may the source be with you.